Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Kickball Podcast. We've got a returning guest this time, Coach Charlie Latshaw. We first talked with him back with Riverlight FC, now leading one of the premier USL2 organizations over the last few years. People know him, people love him, the Des Moines Menace. Currently making a run in the Open Cup. We'll see them later in the summer when we really start getting back into USL2 content. But, Coach, how are you doing today?
I'm doing really good, Danny. Thanks for having me on. And I think this is the second or third time between Chicago City, Riverlight, and now Des Moines. So it's always a pleasure.
Oh, of course. And you're always a personality that we love to be able to bring back. We always like having the returning guests and talking about them. And I know we talked a little bit before the recording. That's the last time I'll call you coach. I just said it in the beginning, and then it's it's just first name basis we talked about. But yeah, so how is everything going? I mean, since the move back in February, a new environment, a new club, how are you feeling?
It's been quick. It's been fast paced. So obviously, taking the job early February for us as a staff is, well, man, probably 3 months behind our usual timeline recruiting wise. Typically, we start around Thanksgiving. And then this year, I mean, we really only had about 6 weeks before Open Cup was really on top of us. So we had Open Cup build, summer build, and we were kind of behind on some of those things. Obviously, we had to learn a new environment, a new housing structure, things like that. So it's been a lot, but it's been really good. And I've been out to Des Moines a couple times already, and I'll be back out there this Sunday. And very warm welcome. And I didn't know exactly what to expect. Obviously, I've been on the other touchline against them a lot and had a lot of success against them. They by no means had to welcome me with open arms, but they've been very gracious and very pleased to have me and my staff and even my partner come along with me, and it's been a really positive experience so far.
Very nice. And I'll be honest, I really like seeing these certain systems, and I think it's something that's taken for granted in terms of the coaching staff that's able to make these moves between organizations. You're able to bring in the kind of people that you've been able to work with and that you've got these relationships with that know how to coach between all of each other's styles. I think it's sometimes it becomes a title thing when you look on the outside in, they see you're the head coach or that you're the sporting director, and that you're the one calling the shots for whatever reason. But when you talk about your staff bringing them into the new environment, I think it's always something that I like hearing just because I think it shows other people on the outside looking in, like I was saying, that it takes a lot of people to create a staff, to create a coaching staff. Tell me about some of the people that you've worked with and that you're bringing over to the new side.
Yeah, it definitely takes a lot of people, and I probably roll a little bit deeper in the summer months than some of these other groups do. Since 2022, I've had Josh Clark and Raul Diaz with me. Josh Clark really hits the ground hard on the recruiting front. A lot of connections. He goes to the end of the earth to get a hold of anybody. If I give him a name, sure enough, within 25 minutes, he usually has a contact information. I'm not always sure how it happens, but he usually there's 1 or 2 degrees of separation, and we get a hold of people, or he gets a hold of a coach for me and gets me in touch so I can make that connection. Raul Diaz does a lot of the player care, a lot of the professional player pathway stuff for us, cutting film, building the player connections to MLS Next Pro, USL One, Liga MX expansion clubs, as well as some over in Europe now, League of Ireland and the Welsh Premier League. And then I brought Michaela Bookwhite's with me, who's been on my women's staff previously. Now, Menace does not have a women's program, but Michaela does a lot of the advanced scouting. I call her my iPad kid. She's the one in game that's live cutting film, things like that. She's got a UEFA B license. She probably watches more footy than all of us combined. So she's a wealth of information that she manages the individual player development plans for us. And then, unfortunately this year we've had to find a local goalie coach, but we've been really blessed with some of the connections we made locally in Des Moines to bring in some new staff on that front. And there's some old guard that, have always worked with the club that want to assist with training, like Justin Vorster and just really, really good coaches with A licenses. So we've, every step along the way, we stay together, but we typically add each year. Troy, the previous head coach at Des Moines, was formerly a member of my staff as well when we were at Chicago City. So the connections run pretty deep. So even the players that we'll retain from last summer that come in with us this year, there's still a connection there where some of the things, the verbiage, game day management, the timeline stuff. They'll recognize that, and there's some continuity between the years. So for us, though, collaboration is really important. There's a comfort level. Obviously, this is for us year four in the USL2 ecosystem working together as a staff, but we've also had 2 seasons at the USLW together, Midwest Premier League, plus a 15, 15 friendlies in the mix. I think we're working on close to 105 adult league games here over the last 5 summers, and it just makes things run a lot smoother when it comes to training environments, prepping, planning, recruiting. They understand the game model. But for me, I feel blessed because I think a lot of the staffs at this level don't have that kind of continuity. They don't stick together. But for me, I've always taken the stance that I'm going to make sure they get compensated before I do, and I think that's happened the last couple of years where I kind of try to make sure that they get taken care of more so than me because they're doing a lot of the things that people don't see. I might get the credit when at the end of the day. I'm just the name at the top. Without what they do for me, I probably only win half the game. So really, it's a group effort. I think when I made this decision that this was the route I was going to go, we hosted a family dinner, as we called it, at my house, me and my partner Jenna, and we brought everybody together and we kind of laid out the options and said, what direction do we want to go? Because it wasn't really just a me choice. We had them and their partners and their spouses over, and it was a collective discussion on what the appropriate course of action was for our immediate future and then our long-term future as a staff.
It, it's also important to, I think, like we've talked about, to have these conversations with partners and spouses and the rest of these coaches to be able to figure out what is the best move moving forward. Obviously, you guys have taken that route. I say obviously, but you folks would have taken the route that would have been best for you regardless, whether it was staying, going somewhere else, or it happened to be Des Moines, at least with this option. But tell me about the importance of this staff knowing the teams in the USL2, in the USLW, or not necessarily the teams, but the league, knowing the league very well, knowing how to scout well, and knowing how to form these relationships with these players. Is that something that you've seen with this staff in particular?
It's a great question, Danny. I think people take it for granted. This league in general, it's tricky. It's a short sprint of a season. You don't get a long preseason. There's oftentimes a lot of turnover in rosters year to year, sometimes month to month within a season. I think it took us the better part. It took us a whole year of kind of figuring it out the first year in 2022 and how it kind of worked. It's a sprint. So we went into 2023 learning some of those lessons, realizing that we needed to go 3 or 4 deep in certain spots because we weren't housing anybody at the time, and we needed the depth in order to compete, and we needed player availability and things like that. But we also knew that injuries happen. The games come fast and furious in the month of June, where you might have double fixtures every week, and with the limited substitutions and no reentry, guys are eating 90 minutes on a Thursday. You can't expect them to play 90 minutes on a Saturday or Sunday. It's just not reality. So it takes some time in this league. So having the comfort level, especially here in the Midwest, goes a long way. From a managing the 90-day stretch here in the summer. Now this year, from a recruiting standpoint, it's been something different for us. We've always been at clubs without housing. We've based our recruiting off of local Chicago-based talent, whether you go to school here or you were born and raised here and you come home for the summer. I had a good grasp on that, having worked in the academy system. So that's kind of where the connections came, and we would bring in, man, sometimes 50 to 70 guys and just kind of rotate through them and make sure everybody's getting their minutes and make sure the training environment Monday through Friday is competitive and everybody's getting a meaningful experience. Now this year, we're housing 24. We'll bring in 6 to 10 local guys from Des Moines that don't need housing. So it's a much smaller roster size. So we have to manage some of those things in terms of managing the player wellness and the minutes and the periodization cycle of a training environment. But what it's done for us is we know the level of talent it takes to go win a division, to go win a regular season national title. We understand now that if you lose your best players early July, you're gonna struggle in the playoffs. It's the long game. So we've kind of made our own rules up where we haven't brought anybody in that has to leave before the end of playoffs. Every one of our players is going to stay till the end of playoffs, because we want to compete for a national title. So we may have missed out on some very high end talents that would have had to leave, say, 4th of July. But at the end of the day, we see it as a positive. Our guys are all together from the second they're there all the way to the very end. And that continuity and that camaraderie takes you a long way come single elimination tournament, playoff time. And so we've learned those lessons. And that's really where it's helped us from the recruiting standpoint. And then because we've played so many games at the level and had success every year, when I call a college coach, they understand that yes, the Menace brand has always taken really good care of the players and run a professional organization. But me and my staff, we've always sent players back healthy, happier, and in a better soccer place than when we found them in May. And that's no different now that we're here. We still want to make them better players, better people, love the game more, and then hopefully they go back to school or and have a better fall than they would have had, or if they're post grads, hopefully in that August transfer window, we can help them find contracts at USL One, USL Championship.
I think very well said, and I think it speaks to the organization very well. Uh, I talked about it in the beginning, but one of the premier pre-professional organizations in the entire country. And you've talked about competing for the national championship and being able to support the players moving forward. I've got two questions for you, or at least on that follow-up, but why is it so important for this Des Moines Menace team, this club to win a national championship? There's people that look at this not being a professional side and, well, what does a national championship really mean? Um, go into a little bit about what that means for you and your staff as well, this club.
Yeah, look, I think 2023 we won a regular season national title, lost in the second round of playoffs, and there's something that it doesn't quite feel when you don't get to play in the last game of the summer. It doesn't feel the same. You can win all the regular season games you want, but you know that you ended the season on a loss, regardless of how much success you had. And look, we got some guys drafted that summer and in the following summer because of that, and that's great success for us. Now, in terms of the Menace brand, look, the expectation from them from day one has never been. Look, they never said, "Hey, the expectation for you is to win a national title." That's not why I'm here. I'm here to participate in the community, make Des Moines a better place, make sure that there's a family environment between the players and the fans. But for me, when I see 3 to 5 thousand fans show up for every home game in a place like Des Moines, and they have a rowdy fan club that really supports this group of boys, well, they deserve to play for national titles. I'm a competitor as well. These boys, look, they're playing for trophies and they want contracts. So if that's what the goal is, we should be trying to win national titles. I think at this level, what's the point of doing this if you're not trying to win and if you're not trying to get contracts? And I think everybody in the staff, all the players, that's where we're at. The fans, they deserve a third star above the crest. But by no means is the ownership group or the GM put any pressure to say, hey, this is the expectation. They just want me to be me. They want the players to have a positive experience. They want us to engage in the community and make the city of Des Moines a better place. But I think what we can do for our fans, we can win. I think since 2017, 2018, Des Moines has lost one regular season USL2 game at home. That came to the group that I coached in 2023, Chicago City. And I saw what that fan base was like when they lost at home. They were very supportive of their team, even though they lost that game. And there was a certain it just made me want to be there. There's a certain vibe there. There's a certain amount of chaos that they cause for the away team, and for me, I just want to make sure I'm doing them proud, and I come in and I uphold the standard that they've set forth before me, and at the end of the day, winning's fun, right? We're supposed to have a good time, and winning helps, So we're going to try to win as much as we can and make sure we qualify for another Open Cup next year, and keep the cycle going.
Course. And the follow-up that I talked about, and I like that you went into this as well, but it's the relationship between player and fan and the club as a whole. What makes Des Moines Menace different than some other USL2 or some other USL2 club that you would find in the country?
Yeah, everybody talks about the connection to community at every club that I've ever been at. Everybody I go talk to, every club I get to see behind the doors. That's one of the things they lead with. Everybody's connected to community, but there's a difference when you put your money where your mouth is. If you are out in the community leading fundraisers, you're out there with your guys, doing things for the kids every night of the week, Monday through Thursday, all summer. interacting. You're making sure that the appearances are happening, that the guys are accessible. The difference is this is a real family setting. It's accessible. There's family meals that guys go to supporter group households on Sunday nights to go have dinner with families. It's a family setting from the top down. It's the culture that they've created, and the fans love it because you have maybe at any given time 5 to 10 guys that are going to be future professionals, and you get to know them. And years down the line, these guys are still coming back to Des Moines and they remember the families that they interacted with and the kids that they got to interact with and things like that. And it's amazing to see. And that's just the culture they've created is it's a family bond and it's a family unit. And, they really do ingrain themselves in the community. And that's what they've done differently from what other clubs have done. They actually do it. They put themselves out there for the community and the community kind of loves them back in return.
Huge, huge. It's so important. And if for a team that's been around as long as the Menace have, it's something that means that much more to a younger kid who's going to watch some of these matches and being able to see the players both in person, just being able to have the conversations with them, and also out onto the pitch and representing Des Moines, putting them on the map in terms of soccer. And it's really hard to do that when you haven't got a professional team, at least in that area, and there've been talks with I think there was an initiative that was going to bring a pro team to Iowa, and but I think the fact that Des Moines Menace exists, it puts the entire state on the map.
And look, USL Pro Iowa is still a thing, and that is led up by the Menace. So it's the same brand, which is good. So, and we'll see. There's still some funding things that have to get done to get the stadium done here in Des Moines, but they still do have the rights to the USL Championship here in Des Moines, and I think it's only a matter of time before it happens. But this is about as close to professional football as you get in. Yeah, at this level, I mean, we take care of the guys. The players are excellent. I think we have guys that are former pros that are wanting to come in that are 24, 25 that are opting out of USL One or MLS Next Pro contracts because they would rather come play for 90 days in Des Moines and take a risk on themselves that they can get a better contract come the end of the season and get to play in front of the big crowds and get the love because at the end of the day, they are big crowds. And when you go to some of these lower leagues, MLS Next Pro, USL One, the crowds aren't that big. You go to an MLS Next Pro game here in Chicago, you might have 150 people. That will never happen at a Des Moines Menace game. So it's truly unique, and I think for me, there was a conversation at home, but it wasn't a long one. I think this is what we chose to do, and we were going to make it work one way or another, and we just feel blessed to have an opportunity.
And one guy that comes to mind right away, Felipe Diogostini. Oh yes, who was a star this past season, at least in USL, and I got obviously so many other more guys that have come through that. And it's a perfect segue also to talk about the Open Cup as well. I mean, MLS watchers will know Sacha and Dax and BWP and Ozzy, that group of guys, at least in the Open Cup. But there are also so many other players that make up that roster. So I want to get a sense of what the scouting and the recruitment is like, and and what your hand in that would have been. I know
Oh
the
yeah,
Open
so
Cup
the,
and
the Open Cup has been look, it's the Wild West for USL two teams first and foremost. We don't have many of our players available unless you have post grads on your team, unless you have guys on spring break. You just don't have the player availability. Most of our guys don't come in until May 1st. So essentially, we had the Sacha connection from last year. Thanks to Charlie Bales. He is the cup set consultant here, the former GM. A lot of this is his doing. He's a little hustler. He's also the one that leads the charge to build all the mini pitches here in Des Moines and in Iowa in general. There's a bunch of mini pitches, and that's because he's doing the fundraising and building those. It's great for the community. So essentially, what happened was, Sacha kind of has rounded up some guys between him and Benny, and they approached me and said, "Hey, coach, we'd like to play again." And I said, "Well, I got a short runway for recruiting. Yes, I have some guys." I said, "I need to be able to bring 5 or 6 of my guys from the summer. That's what's important for me. But I need to know that you're going to take it seriously because I don't want it to be a spectacle. We're here to win a couple games at least. We want to take it. We want to do the cup justice. We want to make sure that we're taking it seriously where we can win some games and get some positive." notoriety and recognition here for the opening rounds because I think there's just not enough of it. And it has definitely got some media attention. So, that's where Benny and Sasha and Dax and Bradley Wright Phillips and those guys come in. Ozzy, Victor Lua, there's so many of them. Mikey Ambrose, Tony Tua, like so many former MLS guys that have stepped up that AJ De La Garza, like such good dudes. And then I look at my guys from the summer that are available. Cade Hagan, he was playing over in Slovenia. Cade was with me for multiple years. He was a Sockers FC Development Academy kid, LA Galaxy residency kid. So I know him from the past. He played with me in 2023. He was an excellent player. He was hanging around Florida. He's going to play this summer. So I said, hey, let's make an Open Cup run. More than happy. Obviously, Enzo was our goalie last summer. He's in the mix. Kyle Owen played for the team last summer. He's in the mix. Leroy he is the face of the Menace for many years. He always makes the Open Cup teams. And then Yoshi Okawa from UNC Greensboro, the ASUN Player of the Year last year. He's in with us for the summer, and he's available because he's out of eligibility. So we called some of these young guys in to kind of who can meld in with the older garb, and they are kind of here where they're learning a lot, asking a lot of questions, and it's been really positive. And I think what I've kind of noticed is there's a lot of hate out there, people thinking that we're taking opportunities away from players, and we're not. We're if anything, we're letting our 5 or 6 guys that are available get a really like a true learning experience. There's only so often you can ask questions of guys that have played 50 or 70 games for the U.S. national team in a personal setting where they will be honest with you without cameras, and they'll give you honest answers and honest feedback. And that goes for me. Like me and Justin Miram had a great conversation after the game, just in regards to managing games and making decisions and things like that. Obviously, a guy that's played 17 years in the MLS has seen a lot of different managers. And for me, why would I not ask those questions about different guys they've been around? It's a once in a lifetime opportunity in a moment. And to be honest, I think it's really special. I think it's really cool. And to be able to bring these guys to Iowa. I think it's wonderful when a Mike Ambrose told me he's never been to Iowa. I'm like, and he's asking me what it's like. I'm like, well, Des Moines is a city. There's 400,000 people in the metropolitan area, but I said, like, Iowa's got a lot of corn, man. Like, I said, I'm from Chicago, but like, it's Iowa, man. I don't know what to tell
Right.
you. Like, you'll see it when you get in. Like, you'll fly in, and I'll make sure I buy you something from the biggest truck stop in the world as a souvenir to take home to the kids. So, it's been really cool there, and we've mixed and matched. We have a couple new guys coming in that are former MLS guys for this round because some guys have some work conflicts. That's like real life stuff. I think they're retired from soccer, but they're not retired from life, right? So we have some new guys, and then we have a couple of more young ones coming in to kind of balance out the squad a little bit. And overall, we're here to compete. Like the end goal is not to win one game; it's to win 2 or 3 games here, and we want to get to an MLS team. That's what we want. So I think we're going to put up a real fight here on Wednesday, and the hope is that we can play in front of 6 or 7 thousand people in Iowa. I can bring some national team stars to the state of Iowa, and then the hope is that we get another game April 14th and 15th against the USL Championship squad, and that puts us a couple weeks away from a potential MLS matchup, and that's the end goal. And what I've taken away from it is though they're all just really normal dudes, man. They're so funny. Ozzy and Dax and Brother Ray Phillips and Sacha, they're just, I mean, I'd bring them into my family cookout, man. They're just so fun.
Yeah. I mean, you wonder sometimes if these personalities are just that, just that for the camera to make sure that there's something charismatic to be able to talk about the game. But it's refreshing to hear that that's not just a veil in front of the real personality and the
Oh
real.
no, they just love the game, man. Like I ask them their whys, and they're like, well, when you play for a living and it's a job, you have to be there. Like they're like it's so fun. Like I was laughing at Benny last Monday in our first session because I'm like, where the heck is Benny? And Benny's running around like a little 12-year-old at practice. Like he's over there kicking balls in the parking lot, shooting at the goal. Like I was like, okay, so some things never change. We're all the same. Like we all just love the game, and it's been refreshing to see. But at the same time, the young ones in the group have taken it as a learning experience. I think me and my staff have definitely taken the time to soak it in and ask the questions and just get to know some guys and make some positive connections. And look, I think football's supposed to be fun, and if you don't think this is fun, I mean, I don't know what else you'd want out of the first couple of rounds of the Open Cup. I think it's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I think that this is the time for people really to be the first few rounds are the ones that I always love watching, and then following through to see who ends up winning the tournament. But this is the time that you end up seeing what these pre-professional, these teams that aren't ready for the pros really are made of, and I think I really really love watching it.
Yeah, and I understand if somebody's mad if they lose to us because I'd be mad too, man. I had two practices and our average age of our starting lineup was 35 and a half years old. I had a couple team meetings and one of them was, Yoshi singing on top of a chair because he let it slip that he loves to sing. Like,
Oh,
yeah, I mean, by all means, if you had 60-day preseason and a couple matches build up and five friendlies, I mean, I'd be mad too. Um, but at the same time, like, it's just fun, man. Like I think soccer is supposed to be fun, and people forget that all the time. And um, there's nothing goofier than minor league sports in this country. And I mean, I was the first one that was so excited about the bring back of the '90s crest, man. Like bring me the soccer ball head. Like I think it's great.
yes, I agree. I mean, this team does. There's nothing that this team does wrong, I think. I mean, and I admittedly had, I won't. I'll be honest. I admittedly had a bit of my skepticism at first about, okay, can Sasha still play? Can Vito? Obviously, I've been wrong. I've been watching the wrong thing, and I'll go out on record and say that I was wrong. I 100% fully wrong about
Well,
that.
I wouldn't call last week's game beautiful, but it was 24 degrees with 40-mile-per-hour winds,
Right.
and
Yep.
man, I was cold. I had a parka on and I thought it was cold. So like I Lord knows if a bunch of people are chanting AARP at me for 45 minutes, I'd probably be pretty annoyed by halftime too. So they took it all in stride and they were good sports. They all stayed after and signed all the autographs and they did the right thing and make sure they took all the selfies with the kids. And I mean they're pros, man. They get it and they're here for a good time, but when the whistle blows, they're pretty serious, man. The game face is on. They're here to play, and um, I feel blessed that they want to represent us, and I think the people in Des Moines are here for it. And at the end of the day, it's fun, man. I find it difficult if people want to say how we have to participate as a USL2 team and we don't have players available if we're not going to force MLS clubs to participate with their full first teams.
Right. And that's a huge conversation that I think uh, that I think really should be brought up more in this conversation, at least about the oldest tournament in the United States. About you've got to take this. There's a certain yeah, I understand wanting to rest certain players to an
Yeah.
extent, but this is a tournament that's part of the history of U.S. soccer. And if we've got any hope of growing this game over the next few decades, I mean, this is going to be the game long after you and I are
Yeah.
done with our work. And I think this is the tournament that needs to be taken seriously. That needs
Tournament
to be our
matters. I
thing that we
mean,
have.
every country in the world has an open cup and it matters to smaller clubs. I think I'm a big advocate of these opening rounds of amateur clubs having the first right of refusal to host because it's so important to us. Um, we'll get a big crowd in Des Moines because we're an amateur club playing a pro club in Des Moines. And I think that every amateur club that I've seen that gets to host an opening round, it's the same thing, whether it's Asheville or Vermont last year or whatever. Everybody gets big crowds when they're the amateur side hosting a pro side. And I think it's really important for the ecosystem. And yes, it's really important for us to be able to showcase some young players that need contracts. And we are being mindful of that. And we are making sure that we're getting 5, 6 young ones on the field to showcase them. But for us, it's also important that we do get the media attention because people don't understand how important and old this tournament is. And for the U.S. amateur teams, this is important. Whether it's a Midwest Premier League team here locally in the Midwest, it's important for us and the local ecosystems that this tournament exists and that it's competitive. There's only so often you have an opportunity to play against a professional club when you're an amateur in the United States, and this is one of those pieces. And I, for one, have always loved the tournament because it's weird. When you can get professionals playing on a American football field with stripes, it's goofy, man. But I think this is America, man. We have to do it our own way, and we should have a little bit more fun with things. And not everything needs to be so polished. And for us, though, I'm here for it, and I want it to last a couple more rounds because I just think it's fun, man.
So I'm gonna ask though too. We brought this up a little bit before, or you brought this up. I didn't say anything about this, but the younger guys learning from these very experienced players, these former national team guys who have had extensive tenures in MLS, and you even learned about or learned a little bit about some of these conversations as well. But do you think these guys are learning different perspectives from these younger players, from people like yourself? Do you think there's that same, maybe not the same topics or the same ideas, but do you still think that there is a bit of a learning from their perspective in this environment?
Um, yeah, I would say there probably is. I think, look, I'm 20 years into my coaching career, and I think some of these guys that are freshly retired from the game are just starting their coaching career. So we had conversations about what the realities are within this profession as a manager, as a coach. Now they have probably a significant head start over where I was. I didn't play 15 years in the MLS, so they have a lot more doors that will open for them. But there's a way of going about your business that matters and a way of managing your time that's really important. And they've asked questions and they've tried to build meaningful connections regardless of what they do for a living now. And um, it's they try to learn, but really they're here for the young guys. I think they were talking about it last week to tell the young guys that they understand their careers are over and they're an open book. If they have questions, they'll answer them, and they'll be the first ones to be. I think I had the conversation this week with a few of them. They're like, listen, don't feel like you have to put me in the first 11. We think a couple of these young guys need to start because, quite frankly, they just got the legs for it, and they're good enough players. So I think, that's been big for me for them to understand, where they're at in their careers. But yeah, I think we're all work in progress, right? I don't think that any of them think that they're a finished product as a human being at 37, 38. I'm in 86 as well, so some of them are born. I mean, I'm older than a lot of them. Some are my age as well, and I think we had a very real conversation about IRAs and mortgages with a couple of them, just asking questions, and it's things like that. So I don't know. They're just normal people, man. It's wild to me. And but when you think about it, they grew up playing in the MLS, and I shouldn't be shocked. And they just want to know if I golf, and I'm like, no, dude, I don't got time for golf. No, it's Chicago, man. It's Chicago in April and March. Nobody's golfing.
You said you're born in 86. I never would have placed you as that. I would have placed early 30s, I'll be honest with you.
Oh, I appreciate that. It must be my skincare routine. I think it's my snack game, my youthful enthusiasm for life, and my skincare routine.
Yeah, okay. Well, you know what? I'll make sure to take notes. I'm 20 and I have people not even IDing me at certain places, so I don't quite know what to think about that. I don't ever accept anything. I'll go on record for saying that. I don't accept anything being underage, but I've had people ask and not even check that kind of thing. But I'll make sure
You
to
got
write that
good flow,
down.
man. I could never have flow like that. So like you got the
Oh.
hair game going on. Like I can't pull that off. If I grew mine out, I just look like a middle-aged mom with a bob cut.
Well, you know what? Everyone but my mother and father want me to keep it. They say you got to cut. They like the comb
It's
over that I had when I was 12 years old, and but that's maybe we go back to that one day.
no, don't let them force you into it. You're only young once. It's only gonna look cool for so long. Eventually your forehead's gonna be like back here, and then it's
Oh,
just not
don't
gonna
say
look
that.
good. It's not
Don't
gonna
say
look
that.
good anymore. You gotta you only live once, man. Keep it. It looks great.
I appreciate that. Good. So, yeah, I guess with the summer moving forward, I mean, I've had a great conversation with the Open Cup. Is there anything else that I left unturned? I don't normally ask that in the middle of the interview, but is there anything else that you think that I should have touched on or that you want to continue to talk about?
I mean, in regards to the Open Cup or in general, I mean,
I mean, I only asked that just in case I missed anything with the Open Cup or anything else. I got a whole list of things about the last few years for you and your own personality. I think we've got I'd
yeah,
love to get into
I think
that.
we're good in the Open Cup. We're only one game deep, so I don't have too many
Right.
stories yet.
No
I don't want to out the guys on who's a little snack raccoon and who's not, but
problem.
I'm always shocked at which ones like the snacks and which ones don't. But we'll get to that another day
No
off
problem.
the
We'll keep that
record. But
blocked
yeah,
in.
we can move on from the Open Cup. I think there's been a lot of media attention, and we're really pleased to have it, and I think it's really healthy for the game.
Perfect. And we'll leave the snack raccoon thing for the fourth interview that we'll have in about a year and a half. So,
Perfect.
um, but in any case, I mean, you've got a new USL2 season coming up. However long the Open Cup lasts for you guys, and I hope it lasts for as long as that we're able to watch it. I think it'll only be more fun the further that Des Moines ends up moving. but you've still got a USL2 season that you've got to get situated during the summer. And there's still going to be a lot of recruiting that needs to go on in that regard. I mean, you've talked about guys who still have eligibility, and now those guys are eligible for the summer. What else is going to go into the recruiting part of it with yourself, your staff, while also juggling the Open Cup and making sure that you're being as effective as a team as you guys can be?
Yeah, so we kind of understood the timelines. Me and my primary recruiting assistant, Josh Clark, we moved pretty quick on the recruiting front. So the second that we knew we had the job, we already had a kind of plan in place ahead of time because there was a couple jobs that we thought were realistic. Both men and women's side that we thought as a group that we collectively would be interested in taking if they fell to us. So we had a recruiting plan in place. Obviously, taking the job late, we knew that we had to hit the ground running. So we spent the better part of February and early March, 10-hour days, talking to coaches, talking to agents, Zoom calls with players. We are 95% done with our roster build for the summer. So we tried to make sure we got ahead of it. I'm also in some licensing courses. He's in a master's program for his third master's degree. So we have a lot going on in life, right?
Third master's degree?
So we hit the ground hard. We have a very eclectic group this summer. Like I said, everybody's available to the very end. That was our number one priority, regardless of when they're actually available to get to Des Moines. We wanted to make sure they were here till the end. We have a lot of guys that are all conference at Division I level, all region at Division I level. We have the Division II Athlete of the Year, three-time first-team All-American there. We have an NAIA boy that's all-time leading goal scorer, three-time first-team All-American. So we've kind of mix and match. We have players that span every continent other than Antarctica. We have a few that have been with me in the past at Chicago City and at Riverlight. We have a few that have been at Des Moines in the past. So we've kind of hit all of our markets, whether it's the old guard here, the old guard with us previously, some players that we had kept eyes on in the last couple of years that we just wanted to work with. But we focus on the traits that we look for: perception, decision making, technical execution. We play a concept-based brand of football that is heavily reliant on the player's choices and the player's personality on the field. Anybody that's ever seen me manage a game, I sit down 95% of the time. You might catch me eating a cutie or a banana 30 minutes into the game. Like, this is just who I am. Once the game kicks off, I have 7 substitutions over 3 moments, and that's really how I make an impact. I speak at halftime, and I can adjust some things there. Occasionally, I might need to encourage my team, but we try to recruit good kids that don't need me to coach their behavior in terms of effort or personality. And so for us, we knew what we were looking for, and we've been lucky to build some new connections this year to bring in some really talented players. And, I think we built a group that's going to compete till the very end. And it'll take some hard work here the first month to get everybody on the same page because we don't have the same continuity we have in the past. We don't all come from the same area, the same background of playing. But for us, every player meets the criteria that we look for in terms of being able to possess the ball and play in this system that relies on us free flowing and creating superiorities. And I'm excited. I think we're going to score a lot of goals, man. I think we're going to score a lot of goals.
So it's huge. It's huge always to win those games, but Des Moines is always known to be a very heavy scoring team, at least to my knowledge, and very heavy on the shot making, very heavy on being able to have, a solid front three, but also about. I mean, I feel like I'm talking about every great USL2 team, but it's
Yeah.
a solid back line, but also a midfield that is, I think, more attacking minded and being able to create those shots, create those goals, and what's going to be most effective. Um, and then you'll have you'll have your fullbacks that take a few steps up and be able to form out a little bit.
Yeah, and we're
Um,
here. We're here to score. That's for sure. Look, we haven't been shut out since 2022 as a staff, and we take pride in that. My defensive-minded coaches get a little irritated because I tell all the players it's a race to 5. We're here to score, man. Like, my fullbacks are not here to defend. We are here to attack, whether it's if you're a fullback that likes to go play inside with the 6, 8s, and 10s, or you're a guy that likes to create width, I'll figure out what kind of 7 or 11 to pair you with, so that we can create superiority where we want to and manipulate the opposition. But for us, we kind of got everybody on the same page, man. We're here to risk it all and go forward. If we can, I want the goal celebrations. I want the after game celebration in the locker room. I want the crowd to be happy. And I think for me, this is gonna sound crazy. I would rather have a 5-4 game any day over a 1-0 score line. I love goals, man. I This is just who I am. I love possessing the ball. I love having the ball, and I love scoring goals. And I think the players enjoy it. I give them a lot of freedom on the field. At the end of the day, it's their game to play. I've never scored a goal for my team, so everybody knows that I try to give all the players all the credit because it's them that's doing it. I'm the train conductor, man. Once that train is going, I'm kind of we're stuck on the tracks, and it's really up to what them as the engine do for us. And we got a lot of bright boys, and I think it's gonna be attractive football. And as long as we can pick up the concepts and the understandings of what we're looking for in terms of assisting and supporting actions and manipulation of spaces, I think. We're here to have a lot of the ball. If I can keep my nickname that Coach Mike at Peoria has given me, the possession merchant, I will gladly take that. I think it's fantastic.
I think it is too. I'm not going to call you anything else other than the possession merchant from now on. I think that's a phenomenal nickname.
Yeah, I think people think it's crazy because I don't know that I've had a goalie punt the ball in 3 or 4 years now. I will play out relentlessly. Like, come press me. I see it as an advantage. If I can break the first line, you're wide open. We're here to go forward now. Like, I like to avoid duels. I like to get the ball back and play quickly. There's a rapid tempo of the game, and I think you can grind on a team when it's late June, early July, and it's 90 degrees out, and you're playing defense for 75% of the game. It's taxing.
But does this ultimately become a question? How do you condition players to be able to play this kind of style that you do? Very aggressive, very attack minded, and I think it will lead to the success regardless of, you know, um, what am I trying to say? Bringing in the certain players, and you're going to get them accustomed to the system regardless in terms of how you want to be able to play in this environment and what this ultimately means to this club and these players and the fans. But how do you, what is that conditioning going to look like for some of these players? I mean, if it's a winger who is running up along a sideline really for most of the match, or even a nine who, maybe he's used to having his back to goal or whatever other system that he's involved in, certain attacking midfielders are going to have to make certain changes. What's that going to look like?
Well, so like from a conditioning standpoint, look, we don't do anything unopposed in training. So almost every single thing we do has opposition. You'll never see us do straight conditioning or fitness without a ball. Everything we do, we use Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursdays are kind of, excuse me, green days for us where it's full go, where losers don't get contracts, losers get physical punishments, perhaps. Coach Josh is a little bit intense some days. Some days not. Some days I won't let him do it, depending on the weather. But at the end of the day, we go at it. We compete. Everything is a competition, and then nothing is unopposed. So we're not out here doing passing patterns. We're not doing 11 on 0. We think that stuff's not reality. Everything we do is reality based, and I think the players love it. They don't want to be bored when they're at training. I can always make the spaces smaller. I can make the time limit in a training section smaller and give a higher frequency of breaks. I can keep the intensity really high and do tight spaces and limit the actual running, but I can make sure everything's competitive. I can make sure there's always an opponent, and that's what we do. So for us, we find that once they get acclimated to this, the game becomes easy. And the reality is, we're not playing in wide open spaces. We're oftentimes playing in spaces in the game where there's, say, me, you, Danny, three of our friends playing a 10 by 10 box close together. We're combining and playing, and then we're moving to a new space to play. And there's another 3 or 4 guys in close spaces. It's not like we're running wide open spaces where guys are running maximum capacity 40-meter sprints. We're playing in tight spaces. So it's more like, can you jog for 90 minutes and then can you sprint for 5 seconds at a time? That's what we're talking about. So it's a lot of rest and recovery and training sessions. But because we really go at it Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursdays in this cycle, when we have a Saturday to Saturday game model, it really gets our guys tip-top shape. And look, if I gotta tone it down and give a guy a day off, I have no problem with that. It's about player safety. But I can always make training sessions shorter. I can always lengthen breaks. But when we are doing the session activities, we are going at it. Now it might be 5 minutes, and then you're going to take a 10-minute break if it's a light day. But we're going to go at it again for another 5, 10 minutes, and everything has opposition. There's always a winner and a loser because that's just the way the game works. The players love it. It's reality based. It's all built around the game context, and for us, I've never seen a soccer game where there's no opponents. I don't think passing around cones makes us better at maintaining possession of the ball because I've never seen defenders stand there before. There's always decisions to make. Every activity we do is mental fatigue because there's decisions to make, and that plays into it. Because in the 90th minute, there's choices you still have to make. Your brain is tired, you still have to make choices. So, look, we manage the workload of the players by the size and shape of the activities, the duration of activities, the duration of the training days, but we're never going to allow for things to be casual. It's always a competition, and look, so the fitness comes that way. It's through the training, and it does take time, but by the time we get to mid-June and we're clicking on all cylinders, it can be pretty dangerous.
You got me wanting to come into a training session. I'm in upstate New York right now, and you got me wanting to come in to see what this looks like, to see what this match is like. I think th this is really what the gravity of what it's like being able to talk with you, involved with the club, and your style all wrapped up into one.
And I think for us, it's what the players love, man. They want a meaningful experience, and we've had players that have come in and played 0 minutes in the summer, but they went back to school and they were pleased as a peach. They had a great summer. The 5 days a week of training they loved, and they were better players for it. And they came back the next year, the next year, and the next year. Whether they played or not was irrelevant to them. They just loved the environment. And for us, that's what we're here for. Is we are servants of the players, regardless of what you do for us on the field. Can we make sure that you get what you need out of a summer experience?
So now I want to get to know a little bit more about yourself personally. I mean, you mentioned being a Chicago kid, and this period in Des Moines is such a small part of your overall career. I mean, you've coached in college, you've coached with River Light, you've coached with the soccer, Chicago City, all of which you've had great success in. I mean, tell me about some of your experiences growing up with the beautiful game. And then, a little bit about, the Chicago kid still in you, still kicking, and how that bleeds into the coaching aspect as well.
Yeah, look, Chicago football is a tough place. I mean, you have a lot of ethnic leagues here, especially I'm a child of the 80s. The 80s and 90s here was ethnic leagues, ethnic clubs. It was very much subdivided by that. You're playing in leagues where this week you're playing the Serbian club, you're playing the Polish club next week, the German club this week. I'm just an American kid, man. At the end of the day, and you kind of had to learn to be tough pretty quick. I was blessed to have a really good coach in my childhood that taught creativity through small-sided games and multi-directional activities, and I've kind of carried that through because I love that freedom of play. And I think when I talk to a lot of my colleagues that grew up in the same generation, they didn't have that experience. They were doing dinosaur things like passing patterns and dribbling through cones and shooting on a goal unopposed. And I'm over here playing 4v4 to end zones and 4v4 multi-goal games in different directions and different things. And I think it, it it made me see the game in a different way. Then through my high school years and whatnot, I played a lot of Hispano leagues here where it's very much you gotta have thick skin pretty quick. It's a tough place, and I think here it's a great melting pot in Chicagoland with a ton of minds that come in from different places. And when I got to a place like Soccer's, from an education standpoint, you have Bulgarian coaches that are A licenses that have seen the best football in Europe. You have Milton Batata, who's played for the Brazilian national team and some of the biggest clubs in the world, and been a very, very successful player in his own right. And he's got his own style. And then you have David Richardson, who's produced guys like Michael Bradley and Jonathan Spector and a bunch of national team players. So he sees what it actually takes to produce that level of talent. And what you do as a young coach in a place like that is you just kind of soak it all in. You try to learn. And I attach myself to a guy, Brett Hall, who's a former women's national team assistant coach, and every player that's made it from Chicagoland in the pro game will tell you that's somebody that's the reason why they made it. And it's about the mentality that he has for the game. It's about the drive and determination and the commitment to fight a little bit. And that's kind of the way we see the game. It's meant to be beautiful, but there is a time and a place where you have to pull up the bootstraps a little bit and go to work and fight a little bit. And I feel blessed to have that background, and I've kind of tried to carry that on with me and make sure that every group that I manage and coach, we kind of have that mentality. We play beautiful football, but there's always a time in the summer when you got to get into a fist fight. That's just what it is. Um, at the end of the day, that's football. It can't always be beautiful. I want it to be beautiful every day, but somebody's going to get there and they're going to kick you for 90 minutes, and you got to understand that that's just life, man. You got to be able to deal with that adversity a little bit. And I just feel blessed to have a great football background. Now, growing up as a not first or second generation kid in the suburbs, it's definitely different than when I was traveling into the city and see what those kids were like. But I was blessed to have parents that let me go wherever I needed to go for football and exposed me to a lot of really good people.
Oh, fascinating. And I'm sure you could also speak to I mean, well, no, you have spoken to the talent that comes out of Chicago. Chicagoland is the nickname of the area. Huge.
Yeah, so like Chicagoland's like the 10 million people, man. Like it's where everywhere that the train goes. So like maybe 45 minutes surrounding the city. We're all connected. It's our geographic region. When we leave Chicago or Chicagoland, sometimes it's just easier for us to say we're from Chicago because not everywhere has suburbs, man, but our suburbs are sprawling and I'm definitely a child of the burbs, and we lived in the city, and I do love the city of Chicago. I think it's the greatest city in the United States in the summer. Maybe not the winter, but in the summer it's great. So,
Yeah, I mean, I've heard the stories of a kid. He's with LAFC too, and he scored in his debut. I think days after he got signed. But Tommy Mahalik's my favorite example of a kid
oh,
that came.
there's a Chicagoland boy right there, FC United.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I mean, this is a kid. He played in. And forgive me, I don't want to get his ethnicity wrong because I talked about this with him a while ago, and he's talked about it on
I
podcasts.
think is he? I can't remember if he's Croatian or Serbian.
Croatian. Yes, thank you. Thank you. I didn't want to say it wrong, but thank you for
Yeah,
naming it. But he played in a Croatian league, and
yeah.
I know he's come from a family of immigrants and very ingrained in that area, and he would play against kids who were Croatian immigrants themselves that came to Chicago. And it's something that's amazing. I mean, I think I'm from not from. I'm from right outside New York. I'm from Yonkers, but I still haven't fully explored what New York's culture is like. And Chicago, I think, is just another entire beast in that Midwest that, similar in terms of the kinds of people that you're able to bring around in terms of immigrant groups that are able to come and create their homes with football. But then you've also got the relations to kids that are from the suburbs and it's this whole melting pot within all of these cities. And then LA and all of Southern California, I'm sure, is more of the same. And I'm missing so many more pockets now that, I've mentioned those three. But
And like taking it back to the Open Cup, like pre MLS, like Chicago's got a ton of amateur clubs that won the Open Cup, whether it's Adria or Schwaben or they're all ethnic clubs here that have done great things, AAC Eagles, things like that, and they still exist to this day. And they service those communities. And I think when I look back to the early 2000s as a teenager, not everybody got to play against grown men at 16 in these ethnic leagues where, I mean, these guys will rip your leg off. They don't care that you're 16. And that's the kind of things that we were thrown into in these. Tommy has that experience, and yes, he came through an MLS Next Academy at FC United, which has produced a ton of players. But soccer's FC United, Chicago Fire here locally, the three big boys academies have done a great job of cultivating the talent here recently. But soccer's and FC United have definitely produced a lot. Both suburban clubs, and but both very very diverse from an ethnicity standpoint. The background of players they bring in, a lot of first and second generation kids, and the football here is definitely unique. I think I took it for granted, and then when I left the state of Illinois and I saw that it wasn't this way everywhere, I definitely felt blessed that this is where I grew up and what I got to experience.
huge. Yeah, no, it's something else. And um I think sometimes even with I'll speak for myself in this. I'm second generation Italian and second generation Polish. And I think even being second generation, there is a little bit of a disconnect. Not so great to where generations and the further you get away, the harder it is to maintain those connections. But even being second generation, I think there is still even a little bit of a conversation between, my grandmother or my grandfather about, hey, what was it like back in the home, and then there's still even we haven't grown up the same, but I think the fact of there being family and there being these consistent outlets to be able to have these conversations in sport and in family and going back to those ethnic ties, it's something that will always be important. And that's at least my point of view. That's my perspective on that.
I agree, and I think even in sport, like diversity in sport and multiple backgrounds and different backgrounds is really important. I think we've always prided ourselves in building teams that come from different backgrounds because that diversity is important. I think America is a great melting pot, and we should embrace that. I think our brand of football can't be somebody else's brand of football. It has to be truly unique if we ever want to be great, and it doesn't have to look like somebody else's. It has to. Maybe we steal little bits from everybody else because that sounds very American to me. And we just kind of make it our own. And I think it could be something special, but we kind of got to figure it out and how that all works and what the American culture looks like on the football field.
No, and yeah, I think you have a little bit more experience in this than me in terms of the coaching perspective, and I still feel like a kid sometimes running around with his head cut like a chicken with his head cut off sometimes, just trying to get to all these stories and really figuring it all out. But that's ultimately why I want to do this kind of thing, to be able to have these conversations and these stories, just to be able to get out there. And yeah, I think it not this outlet in particular, but I think just being able to use social media and get these stories out there, it's going to make people more invested in the sport. And especially, I mean, we're 14 months away from the World Cup coming to the United States. The Club World Cup is going to as well. Promotion relegation coming to USL. There's so many. We're living in such a golden age of the sport right now in the United States, and I'm so excited to see where this ends up going. I'm glad that people like me and you and everyone who's watching, everyone who's been involved in the sport get to live through this part of it.
I want to see every mid-sized city in this country have a pro team. And look, we're the size of Europe. We may as well have 500 professional teams here. I mean,
Why not?
why not? If I look at Illinois, and why aren't there 5 or 6 USL League One teams in the suburbs? I could name the suburbs now that could sustain it. And why doesn't Peoria have one? Why doesn't Springfield have one? Why doesn't Rockford have one? You could have a 12 team division in USL One in Illinois itself, and the derbies would be unbelievable. You stretch it north to Milwaukee, that's fine. I'm happy, Milwaukee is just Chicago's biggest suburb, so um, I'm sure the Wisconsin people love that.
No problem. Look, that's what I was telling you about my major and the law route that we were talking. That's ultimately my plan, to make my money, figure out wherever the hell I'm going to get that from, and then we'll figure. I mean, I talk silly about that, but yeah, I think the sentiment that you talk about, I mean, and I love the fact that we're seeing so many of USL Iowa, like you're talking about, between the ownership group, but then there's also, I think, Milwaukee's getting a pro soccer. Buffalo. I was talking with the founder of Buffalo Pro Soccer not too long ago. He came to do an event
Look
at
what, look
Grinnell.
what they're building in Fort Wayne right now.
Oh
That stadium's
man.
going to be gorgeous. Every small city, I think every city sub 300,000 people would embrace their something to call their own. They don't have major professional sports, and I think when you look at successful markets, people will show up for it. I mean, if you can get 3 to 5 thousand fans a game, it's sustainable and it's fun. And we were down at Louisville this August for a visit, and there's something so charming. That's a massive stadium for lower league soccer at 10 or 11,000, but you're 20 feet away from the touchline, no matter where you are. It's unbelievable. I mean, let's build more soccer specific venues that seat 5,000 people. They don't have to be $200 million stadiums. I want to sit 15 feet from the touchline. I want to hear the guys. I want to see the action. I think people can get behind that, and I think cities can get behind it, something they call their own. And if minor league baseball for 100 years has been able to do it, and we have successful minor league baseball here in Chicagoland that is not affiliated, and they draw 4 or 5 thousand fans a game in a place like Kane County, I see there's no reason why we can't replicate that on the soccer side. And communities want something to call their own, and I think that with the young generation, and maybe it's because of FIFA video games. I don't care what the reason is. People like soccer, man. Like I get it. And I think it's going to get more entertaining. And there's different forms, with TST and the Kings League and different things. It's going to become more relevant to everybody. And for me, I love it all. Bring it all. Like I love arena soccer. I love the TST. I love the Kings League. It's all good for me, man. Like it's still soccer. It's just a different rule.
So I've got to ask too, I mean, this is our bread and butter at Kickleball has been the college player and
Yeah.
highlighting their story where there admittedly wasn't so much of an outlet for them to be able to have that conversation. If, you know, if the money, no, I'm not even talking about the money, but with our vision that well, really more your vision. I don't want to be harping on it so much, at least with what we're talking about, but your vision of having hundreds of these smaller USL clubs to where we can really build up these communities, sub 300,000 people all across the United States. What does this do for the college player? I think it makes them only that much more valuable moving forward.
Yeah, I think it's a complicated discussion. I think the NCAA is already complicated, and they're entering a realm of professional sports here with NIL to begin with. I think there's going to be a serious discussion in the next 5 to 10 years about what the path forward is for NCAA. Do they want to act as part of a minor league or lower level sports tier, or do they still want to remain amateurs? And um, I don't think it's a secret that in the world of soccer that the best players are playing professional soccer at 18 years old. And for us here in the States, there's value to the college game for a lot of people. Providing college education. Look, I'm one of those people. I got a college degree because of the game, and there's value there. But the question becomes, do we privatize athletics and separate it from the education piece, and you allow colleges to now run professional sports franchises and enter lower leagues, which I think they have great infrastructure to do. Is it financially viable for them? I'm not sure. That's above my pay grade. But for the college player, I think right now there's not enough opportunities in the States. We have tons of professional ready talent. I think we'd have more if we would go to a two-cycle system or a two-semester system. While that might hurt the USL2 brand and the Summer League brands because the guys might not need the outlet for it as much because they're playing year-round at college, I think it would benefit them because of the facilities and a more appropriate game cycle Saturday to Saturday. I think academically it could benefit them where they're not missing school to go on road trips. Um, but I think having more professional soccer here would benefit the college player. But I think there needs to be a serious discussion on whether the college game is the route that we want to take in producing professionals or not, or do we want to allow colleges to run professional sports franchises? Because I also think that's in play. And I don't think it has to be one or the other. It could be 40 schools that decide they want to have a USL championship, USL one team. I don't think that's off the table. I think that's in the realm of possibilities. It just depends on what route a college wants to take, what's right for them and their enrollment and their financial situation, their community, their personal partnerships. And I think there's a lot of different paths they could take, but I think we are on the cusp of drastic changes in the NCAA, especially in the Olympic sports landscape. Maybe not in basketball and football, but certainly for the Olympic sports like soccer, I think there's going to be a change. I don't know what it's going to look like, but because of the rise of USL, the rise of lower league soccer, I could see there being a symbiotic relationship of some kind that benefits the college athlete, and whether that be in the spring when there's non-championship seasons, they allow these guys to go play on professional teams. Maybe that's the solution. I'm not opposed to that. I think that could be very beneficial for a lot of the guys.
Right. And I mean, I know you there even is a little bit of that conversation. I know with
Yeah,
the ACC and the Big Ten, they've talked about as early as what 2 or 3 years from now, that's
yeah,
going to be huge. And I think, as we speak, I'm sure NCAA soccer, both men's and women's, because this is going to affect the women's game as well, considering
absolutely.
that there's the not, excuse me, the NWSL and the USL Super League. But I think it also has become a platform for women's players to be able to start their careers abroad as well. I mean, we've seen it a lot with the Nordic countries. I think a lot of places in Europe, Australia, New Zealand has become a hotspot for college players as well. I think we've seen like
Yeah,
5 or 6 guys I can name off the top of my head that have gone to the Premier League in, oh, I forget the name of it, but it's the New Zealand's first division.
Yeah, a lot of them go play in the NPL over there now. I think the housing situation's provided, the pay is okay, and it's a good stepping stone to the next step up. And I think about the women's game. We had a young lady, she's at Shelburne now from last summer's USLW team. It's a great step in her progression as a professional player to get in the system. And I think as the USL Super League grows and it's that's a good thing for the women's game. I think there needs to be more opportunities. I, for one, got to go see the Kansas City Stadium that the Current have built. It's unbelievable. I think for a women's program to have these type of stadiums, it's wild. It's unbelievable. I think it's great for the ecosystem. And I, for one, would like to see every new USL professional franchise be pushed in the direction of also having a Super League team. And I want multiple tiers on the women's side. I want promotion relegation across the board there. If we want to sustain the success that we've built in the women's game over the last 30 years, we have to change. If we want to win more World Cups, we have to adjust because what they've done with the academy systems in Europe and South America right now, we're being bypassed. The level of the standard of education and the level of the players now it's different than it was 20 years ago, and we need to adjust, and we need to make sure that we are the creme de la creme of professional environments for these young women. And it can't stop at 23 at college. We have to give them an outlet to make money and continue playing. There has to be value there, and I was very pleased to see the launch of the Super League and to see that another 8 teams will be added to the mix. And I think you'll see it continue to grow, and I believe that they will have two professional women's divisions in USL probably by the time they launch the first division on the men's side in 2028.
So huge. And the fact that this all is happening, I mean, it all happened at least from the outside looking in. I was hearing murmurs about the conversations, and then right away we had the announcement. Oh, yep, promotion relegation 2028.
Yeah, I was a little taken aback. There was murmurs about it. I didn't expect for it to be straight off the bat. I think that's a risk for some of the owners' money, but I think that they understand the importance of it, and it shows the commitment level they have to building the appropriate ecosystem.
Yeah, well, huge. I mean, one last thing I wanted to get to know, I just to know you a little bit more as a person. We talked about it a little bit off, before I let you go. And again, I really appreciate you wanting
Of course.
to give me as much time, as we've had. But, when you're away from the pitch and you're away from advancing this Open Cup team, Des Moines Menace as a whole, the USL2 squad, all these contacts between all these players and the coaches, a day like today or a day whatever, a week from now, if you know you've got an off day, what does Mr. Charlie Latshaw's day look like?
Well, I'm blessed. My partner Jenna works remotely, so she works from home as well. So we get to spend um, days together when I have the free time. I got the dog at home, which Ginger's scared of other people, but she loves us, so she's a little Velcro dog. But for us, look, we value spending time together. I think we're maybe a little bit old souls, so a day like this, we'll cook dinner together. We are avid cookers, 7 days a week. Maybe we'll play some backgammon. We play a lot of backgammon in this house. Maybe listen to a couple records, and then maybe a little nightcap of we'll try to catch up on White Lotus or one of the other shows that we're watching right now. And um, we don't watch a ton of TV, but when we do, we try to make sure it counts. We try to make sure it's a decent show. And but for us, we're pretty normal, man. I'm just blessed not to cut my grass yet. We don't live the most exciting life. We're pretty boring, I guess, when it comes down to it. We like to cook, we like to play board games together, and we like to spend time together. I think we feel blessed that we found each other as a positive partner, that we think we're funny. I think we spent 3 hours last night making a stupid get to know you game for my US Open Cup guys, a Menace mashup where it's like three celebrities mashed together. Which player on the team would this be? Like for me, it's like I'm like the example. It's like if Molly Shannon, Sloth from the Goonies, and Dave Franco were merged together, who would it be? And it's like me. It's like Coach Charlie, and it's like my partner came with that. Jenna, I'm like, cool. I'm Sloth from the Goonies. She's like, he's fiercely loyal and he loves snacks. Does that not describe you? I was like, yeah, that's pretty accurate. So we do silly things like that. I mean, it's important that you laugh, but we try to take time out of the day to spend time with each other and make sure it's meaningful. And I think that's what life's about is trying to slow down when you can. But I think today I have a youth club that I run here in Chicagoland, but I'm blessed to have a good staff that doesn't need me on the ground and is relatively self-sufficient that I can go enjoy my summer in Iowa. And I have a partner at home that's excited for the opportunity, and she'll come out to Iowa as much as she can. And I think, next week for the Open Cup, she's excited to go to Iowa. She'll go do all this stuff for the supporters group. She told me she's going to bake some cookies for the supporters group, and that's just who we are, man.
Oh, very nice. I would say I wish I could be at the Wednesday game, but I'm going to be at the Westchester Penn Cyprians match for Open Cup in Westchester, New York. So that's going to be very dope. I'm going to be
I
doing it.
just say the one I'm disappointed it's on the same day. I'd like to see the Chattanooga
It's something
Derby.
else. Yeah.
There's a lot of bad blood there, so I'd like to see. I just want to see how. Maybe I'll watch the replay. I want to see how it plays out. It'll be it'll be good drama, but I'd say most of these second round games should be pretty entertaining. And if you live close enough where you can get to one in person, you should. I think it's important that people show up and support their local teams.
Yeah, I completely agree. And well, I think that's a great way really to end off if I don't know, I still don't know if this is the second, actually, no, I know you did a game analysis before and we've done an interview before, but
Yeah, I did a what did I Colin? I did a game analysis with Coley last year, and then 2023 post playoff loss against Flint City. I did a interview there. You guys had interviewed a bunch of my guys. 2023 we qualified number one overall in the Open Cup. I was unceremoniously fired after losing one playoff game to Flint City, but that's neither here or there. It opened doors for me, so it's okay. I don't mind. My commute's gotten much better, so no hard feelings on that front. But yeah, so it's been good ones. I guess I had a question for you, Danny. So
yeah,
because I'm like I do pride myself on my pregame and halftime snack game. What is the snack of choice?
for me,
Yes. It
not for
can be
the game.
sweet. It can be sweet or savory.
Okay, so this I would never have this before a game, and admittedly, I haven't played a competitive game of soccer since probably the 10th grade, so it's been about 4 years. But I have been on a kick of that bold Chex Mix lately. In
Okay.
that black bag, I don't have a full thing because that's you got to have like three things of water to be able to balance that out. But if I have a little, maybe it's like this big, and I have just a little tin of that, and I just pick at it for a while.
Is that the one with like it's got all the powder all over it? I'm
Yeah.
trying to think. Oh, see, I'm pretty brand loyal towards like the extra toasty Cheez-Its. I'm a
Okay.
big fan. I'm a big fan of that. Only the extra toasted though. Only the extra toasted. I do like some Chex Mix, but I like Jenna makes me homemade Chex Mix in the
Oh, I
oven,
love it.
so it's pretty elite. She adds like all the things I like to it, so I get pretty spoiled around here.
Oh, good. Okay, very nice. Yeah.
So
What was I gonna say? So the
that's
Chex.
a good choice, though. That's a good choice. That's unique. Most guys go with like a real simple one. So if you ever pull up at a game, I'll make sure I get some bold Chex Mix for you.
Oh
Okay.
my gosh, of course. I'm gonna let so then you know what? I gotta figure something out. It may have to be next year for me to figure, oh my
We'll
gosh.
make it. We'll make it work. We'll make it work.
Yeah, because I'm broke and I don't make no money up at college. I'm not gonna lie. So I was doing this. I was talking with someone earlier today, but I was filling out some of the job applications to try to get something going up here. I'm gonna try to TA for a class. I'm gonna try to do some other mentor program that's up here. I hope to God that no one from Cornell is watch, no one in the office is watching this because I'm being very vague about it. And then there's something else. I'm going to try to just be a supervisor at one of the buildings over here because I got to get my money up to be able to get out to some of these games.
Chex Mix. If you're out there, Danny Lang would like a bold Chex Mix sponsorship for his podcast.
Thank you.
He's happy to put a little mark in the corner in exchange for unlimited Chex Mix, and he'll give you a soundbite. So.
I agree. And I will wear a Chex Mix sweater. I will make, those ones that look like,
Yo, if you can get your hands on that, I'll do a jersey trade with you. If you can get if you can get a Chex Mix sweater, like a Christmas sweater, I'm down for that. Like I'm about that.
deal. All right.
That's not even ugly. I would just wear that.
I was just gonna wear it for myself, but if we're gonna do a jersey swap, then that's gonna be
Yeah, can you get see if you get if they send you a sweater, can you get two? I got you. I'll get you like a Menace sweater. We'll be good.
absolutely. You want bold or the regular one or another one?
I prefer I prefer whatever they're willing to give you. I like free stuff. It doesn't even matter. Free is good.
Of course. Okay. Coach.
All right, Danny, it's been a pleasure.
Yes, likewise. And we'll stay in touch, and you've got all my support, all of Kickleball's support as usual for everything that's to come.
All right, thank you very much.
We talk again.